Thank you so much. And thank you to both of our amazing schools for taking the time to talk about what you all are doing in CTE. It's really incredible to hear all the amazing work you all are doing. And we're going to continue to dive into that in our panel discussion. Just to give a little background about what the panel will look like, it's going to be in 3 sections. We're first going to talk with practitioners, then we will move into talking with students, and then, I think it'll be business our students, and then we will move into talking with our business leaders. So if we could go to the next slide, we will get started with our questions for practitioners. And just to reintroduce everybody, so we have Jody from Perry Central Community School, and then the amazing team at Alexandria Area High School. So our first question, I will direct this for Jody. So what has been the biggest win you've experienced in implementing your CTE program?
I think that, and I feel like if our teachers were here, they would tell you the same. I feel like the biggest win that we're having is it's changing the landscape of our schools. Our students are able to find their purpose and their strengths, because sometimes they can't find that in a traditional classroom, and they're able to start making connections to the world outside. We've had numerous students come out of our CTE programs, and they have walked right into jobs, or they have been able to go on to college and complete programs that normally maybe would have really struggled to do that. And so they feel very confident in what they're doing. When they go out to talk to other communities or other students of their same age, they're surprised by that they have dual credits, and other kids don't even know what dual credits are. They've had internships and other students haven't. And so that gives them that sense of pride, and also that confidence they need to keep moving forward. And so I really feel like our CTE programs are changing the feel of high school and how they feel about learning in general.
Great, thank you so much for sharing. I'm going to pass the same question over to the Alexandria area team, particularly if Eric would like to share, who is a teacher at the school. So what has been the biggest win you've experienced when implementing your CTE program?
Yeah, so I like this question because it kind of allows us to talk about maybe a specific example. I think across the board though, like our students, just to see the biggest win has to be them realizing that what they're learning is what's going to help them in the future. Business, I'm a business teacher, but it's constantly evolving, changing. So for me to think that I have all the knowledge that I'm going to pass on to them, and in 5 years when they graduate college, they're going to be ready, I think is probably an overconfidence of me. So like today, for example, I have 8 judges coming in and working with students on sales. They're selling products directly to people that are in retail fields. They're getting direct feedback, instruction. On Monday, we had a retail guest speaker that came in and did a role play scenario for them to practice. So I think anytime you can bring, community partnerships into the classroom, students are always going to respond positively. So my biggest win, before I get too carried away here, my biggest win, I would say though, has been Geneva Capital. There was a quote from Mark Watkins, I know, when we presented. Mark owns a financing business in town. There's about 50 employees. And I actually had never met him before. I pitched him an idea for him to be the main sponsor of a marketing plan. It started with $3,000 that students would basically present a marketing plan, and he'd pick one winner. And it's evolved to now it's $21,000 in scholarships. Students perform and present their plan in our theater. There's about 300 or 400 people that go to the event. Students are working on it over Christmas break with me. I mean, their motivation, how bought in they are. They're working directly with a business throughout this. They have a mentor from Geneva Capital. So it's just been amazing to see how things grow, which I think that would be my next, if I was to answer the next question, my advice would be to start small and build, and you'll be amazed how much community members want to be a part of things, how much they want to give back. You might not nail it with the first person, and it might take a while, but once it builds, it's pretty amazing what happens. And, to finish the story, I just got an email from Mark, and he wants we started a business foundation, a DECA foundation for students. We've raised $422,000, and he just told me yesterday that he wants to donate another $50,000 match. So like you definitely, you start small, but you know, I think if you organize it well and they can see the result, you'll get a lot of buy-in.
That sounds awesome. Thank you for sharing. I also want to add to the rest of the Alexandria area team, if you have any other insight on your biggest win, or as Eric brought up, like any other advice you would give to other districts trying to develop a similar CTE program.
I think our community partnerships is a huge win. Our students are getting out into the community, getting practical real life experience, and when they leave, we see our kids leave with confidence, and we see them leave with purpose. They know where they're going. They've actually gotten to experience some of their interests and passions in a real life setting, and they're ready. And we hear all the time about our kids going to college and feeling like they are very comfortable at whatever college they go to, and in a lot of cases being to the top in their class. And that's not just academically, but with all of the experiences that they've had through our school. So just to know that our kids are confident and prepared, and that they do well at the next step, whatever that may be, I think that's our biggest win.
I'm gonna also add the mind shift of our building and our staff. I think you go back 10 years ago, there was a big push for STEM and everyone go to a 4-year school, and it was kind of the school dictating where we thought students should go. So by going to our academy model and with CTE, it's reversing that and just asking our kids what do they love to do and what they're passionate about, and we switching our philosophy to helping them, each student, get to where he or she wants to be in life. So when they leave our high school, they are going to wherever they're passionate about, be it a 2-year school, 4-year school, into the workforce. I think they're leaving us much more, I think, knowing where they want to go and what they want to do. So it's just kind of that mind shift switch on our part too, I think was a big win.
Great, thank you so much. And I will pass the same question back to Jody. So what advice would you give to other districts trying to develop a similar CTE program?
I feel like the biggest advice is, and the business teacher, and I apologize, I can't remember your name, he kind of mentioned this, is to start small and don't give up. And then it's really important to find the right person, your business partners, to bring to the table. Not all of them can see the vision, and you'll get to hear from Susan in a little bit, but she has the vision, and she's the one that can really get the work done with the business partners, and getting creative and buying into our students. It's really about finding those right people, and you might go through a few before you find the right one, but it's worth the wait. I also think that sometimes, when I've learned as being principal for a long time, is I used to think that I had to start something with everybody. Like we had to do it. How are we going to get the whole school to do it? And that's not really the best approach, because it'll never happen. You have to start with really small pockets of these models, and then you just kind of keep bringing people together, and then it continues to grow, and people start to understand the mindset, and they see the success. And I think that that's how we have been able to grow our programs. It started for us with Commodore Manufacturing, and that took us 5 years to really get it where we wanted it. And a lot of headaches and a lot of things that didn't go well, but we didn't give up. And now we're starting to see the benefit of that, and how we build programs down the road. So I feel like those are probably the 2 biggest pieces of advice that I could give. And sometimes there are policies and procedures and things in education that get in the way too, and you can't let those stop you. You have to go. We always try to figure out how we can go around them or through them or over them, whatever it takes to get done what's best for kids.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much to all of our practitioners. So next we're going to move on to the portion of the panel for students. So we have Vivian from Perry Central, and then Haley from Alexandria area. And I believe we have some written responses from Anna as well, who's an alumni of Alexandria area high school. So I'll start with Vivian first. So if Vivian, if you are there, if you'd like to tell us about your experience, what it's been like participating in CTE courses, and then also what has been a goal or a target for your CTE experiences.
So For most of the years that I've been in the CTE programs, building relationships with people has probably been the best. The people that you work with probably makes the best of a job. And the different students that I get to work with in different age groups that kind of collaborate with me make everything so much better. We learn from each other, we brainstorm literally everything. And it's something that made everything a lot better. But I feel like my experience in the CTE programs is a little bit different as we have our 3D printing programs. And I've kind of been managing that, and it's been absolutely amazing for my future. And I absolutely love it. There's nothing else I think I'd rather do here. And my targets and goals for this was kind of where I am now. I built a lot of stuff on the computer. I did a lot of stuff by hand. I meet a lot of people, and I've gotten my certificates that I feel like I deserve, and I worked really hard for all this. And so I'm kind of looking for my new goals now because I feel like I've completed almost all of them I've made.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. And that sounds really incredible, everything you've been doing through your CTE programs. So we really appreciate you sharing that. I will pass the same question over to Haley from Alexandria area. So what has your experience been participating in CTE, and what have been your goals or your target for your CTE experience?
Personally, I've had a lot of experiences and taken a lot of CTE courses over my 4 years at AAHS. And I think they've really helped me to kind of find what interests me and help me develop skills for my specific pathway, which is business. I think my biggest experience, or what has had the biggest impact on me, is my business caps class. And I'm currently taking that right now. We're about halfway through it, but it's really given me a chance to not only develop soft skills like communication and collaboration, but also to learn all the marketing and business pieces in a real life experience versus just learning it from a textbook too. And I also have been able to work with a lot of different local businesses and community organizations that I'm not really necessarily looked on and guided by a teacher, but it's something that I can learn myself and really work on becoming independent in those skills. And for my goal overall with CTU courses, I think I want to make sure that I'm solidified in my passion for business and making sure that I'm fully prepared to pursue it in college education and even turn that into a career.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Does Anna have written responses for those questions? If you would like to share those.
Yes, so this is Claire, and speaking on behalf of Anna's Willing. I would say that a lot of what Anna has kind of reiterates what Haley shared. Her biggest thing in regards to the experience is she wanted to make sure that the business was her true interest. And so by taking the CTE courses that she was able to take in high school, she was able to do that. And she talks a lot about being able to partner with local companies and local businesses to really work on marketing and research plans in a real life situation. She also notes that the opportunity to connect and network with people in the business helped test some of her critical thinking and her creative thinking skills. And she specifically notes that it truly grew, her confidence in herself as a businesswoman. And then for the second part of the question, her goal or her target was to go to college and find out, right, that she was reassured in the fact that business was truly her interest area. And so she talks about how going into college, having had professional experience with working with business partners, she feels gave her a leg up. And so I'll just read one of her statements here. She said, "I came in a step up in confidence, experiences, knowledge, and much more. Being able to speak to the experiences I had at AHS in these courses has been so beneficial in interviews, in my classes, and in my extracurricular involvements. I couldn't stress more how beneficial the classes have been to me and how beneficial I know they could be to students everywhere."
Awesome. Thank you so much. And then Haley, I will ask you, what advice would you give to other students who are thinking of pursuing a CTE pathway? That could be any pathway or the business pathway that you're pursuing.
For other students and with any CTE experience, I would say go into it with an open mind and don't be afraid to kind of push yourself and work towards other skills that you haven't quite developed yet. But overall, just don't be afraid to open yourself up to new experiences.
Awesome, thank you. That's really great advice. Vivian, do you have any advice for other students pursuing either the engineering pathway or any pathway in particular with CTE?
To actually kind of build off her answer, I would say just try in general. No matter if you just start the pathway and you don't end up thinking that it's for there's no point in not trying it, because if you don't end up liking it, you'll always learn other information that you might need later. And then if you don't, then you already know you don't like this pathway and that you can change it later.
Awesome, thank you. And then does Anna have any advice, given that she is an alumni of the CTE program? So I think her advice would be really insightful as well.
Yes, she really just encourages students to kind of push themselves, go outside of their comfort zone a little bit, even ask questions, never overlook an opportunity. So just making sure you take advantage of all the opportunities that come your way. Her comment is take advantage and be bold. The classes are there to benefit you. And then she talks about just, being willing to ask. If there's something you want, ask the question. If there's somebody you want to shadow, ask. If there's a particular class you're wondering about, ask. And so she just really encourages that. And she says that in her experience, whenever she did ask, she experienced nothing but support from her school and from her community.
Great, thank you so much. And thank you to all of our amazing students taking time out of your senior year on a Friday. So we really appreciate it. And we really appreciate all of your insight. So thank you very much. We're gonna move on now to our panel questions for our business leaders. So we have two business leaders on the call today. We have Susan and Sam. So before I get into the questions though, I would just invite first Susan and then Sam to come on and talk a little bit about your business and what your job is, and just to give a little bit of context before we move into the questions. So Susan.
Thank you. My name is Susan Miller, and I am the Director of HR for the Thermworth Corporation. We are located in this little rural small town of Dell, Indiana. We have 120 employee base, and we are literally in the middle of a cornfield. However, we produce large-scale 3D printers and high-tech CNC machines. So we have patents, and we do machining and make machines that nobody else in the world does on the 3D printers. So some of our notable customers are Boeing, the United States government, along with Bell Helicopter, and many, many more. So our talent is 90% local, and we do things that nobody in the world does but us. So thank you for having us today.
Thank you so much, Susan. And then Sam, if you could come on and talk a little bit about your business and your role, that would be great.
Yeah, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Sam Steitel, I work at Ameriprise Financial in Alexandria. We are a financial planning firm. We have 8 advisors in the office, 15 or 16 support staff, and have been a part of the CTE Business Caps program for probably the last 4 or 5 years. Our main job here in town is to help people with financial planning and investing money. And so it's been really interesting and really fun having the high school kids come over and learn from us and us learn from them. It's been a great experience so far.
Great, thank you. So I'll start with you, Sam, with this first question. So what has been your motivation for partnering with the Alexandria Area School District or high school for offering CTE opportunities?
I think originally it was just Claire and maybe Eric Hartman bugging me enough to participate and help out. Originally it was just to help kids and maybe help the high school and provide an environment for them to learn. Our first meeting with kids as they came into the office, it became very apparent quickly that we were going to learn as much or more, that we were going to provide mentorship. So It started off as just trying to help out the community, help out high school kids. Very quickly into the process, we found out that we were going to be getting a lot more out of it probably than the kids were going to get out of it. So it was a great, true partnership.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And then Susan, I'll ask you the same question. So what has been your motivation for partnering to offer CTE opportunities with Perry Central?
For our motivation, as all businesses, regardless, even pre-COVID, hiring and finding that right talent for your culture has always been very difficult. And so the recruiting piece of it was maybe when I talk about company, initial onset. So how do we get in front of our future employees early on, why we can let them understand our culture and what's expected as an employee. So that was the beginning of our motivation. But as time has developed, the motivation has grown unbelievably. It is just a win-win for everybody that's involved. From the business side, we, as Jody spoke, we participate very heavily in the internship program. We have 2 interns currently, and one of them is an engineering and computer manufacturing student, and he's actually going to be printing something at Thermwood on one of our large scale 3D printers that he's developing in his classroom work. So he speaks the language, he is already there. We've got him hook, line, sinker, and he has us the same. So there's definitely a future, hopefully, employee there that's going to just grow our business in the direction we want it to be. We also have an HR intern who has done an I-9 audit, and anybody that's in HR understands how horrible that is, and she did it unbelievably successfully. She runs our total employee engagement from our Biggest Loser to Veterans Day and everything, which actually took a huge chunk off my team's plate. She's also now learning about employee personnel files and working through that. I had an intern previously from computer manufacturing that wrote their host safety book and developed their application for employment and types things. So the internship program has really grown, and it's a win-win for both sides. And then I'm going to tell you, the environment when these students that have these great work ethics are in your building every day, it is just so much fun. There is just you can see people smile when you see them come in the door. So the internship is part of that motivation. And then recruitment, just period. Perry Central is great. They let us get in front of these students all the time. When I get in front of a student, I'm also getting in front of a parent. I'm getting in front of somebody that the student's going to go home, hopefully in their kitchen, and say, hey, I went to Thermwood today. They are amazing. And so during that process, I talk about benefits, and I talk about all the things that are important to a future employee from employer. So I'm really hoping that some of that is transferring to their parents as we do the recruiting. It also is just community involvement. And as people in business, and especially in our small rural communities, we're a team. The education sector, the business sector, Wapaka, Jasper Engines, they've all been partners with Thermwood during. And it's just important that that rural community sticks together, because we want our kids to stay. So we want them to go out and get this education, or just get the education in high school and come in as that skilled labor that is going to be important for our growth. So it's a win-win for everybody, including the community, the students, the school, and most definitely the businesses that are involved.
Thank you so much for sharing, Susan. So I'll ask the next question to Sam. So what advice would you give to other business leaders to develop a successful partnership with school districts?
Yeah, I think it starts at the school district a little bit, and having the leadership to be passionate about it. And the people sitting in the conference room at Alec High School right now they're passionate about it. They believe in it. They're all in. That makes business leaders want to be all in and want to participate in it. So for business leaders, I think it's important to take it seriously. This isn't a babysitting operation. This is an opportunity to truly form a partnership and let these kids come in and be consultants for your business. A lot of times business owners or business leaders think they have a lot of things or most things figured out. They haven't looked maybe through a different lens before, or haven't looked through a different lens in a long time. The kids that we have in this community, and it sounds like in Indiana as well, with the technology that's available to them now, and the opportunity to learn different business techniques, it's been eye-opening. So I think it's, as a business leader, take it seriously, try to get as much out of it as you can, treat the kids as they're coming in like you would treat another business consultant. They've looked at our business and done a cause marketing campaign. Currently, they're doing an employee satisfaction or employee retention campaign. You know, those are things that, especially the employee satisfaction and retention, couldn't be more important right now. With if you lose an employee, how terribly hard it is to replace them. So they've brought a couple campaigns to our office that we've overlooked, and frankly, it's been very beneficial.
Thank you so much, Sam. And then I'll ask the same question again to Susan. So what advice would you give to other business leaders to develop a successful partnership with school districts?
The first advice is, I'm going to echo what Jody said, was find the person with the passion. You have to have the right people from the business side and the right people from the school district side. When that passion hits head on, there's nothing that you can't do together with the school corporation. Learn to speak the language. In the very beginning, we discovered that business people have a language and education professionals have a language, and it wasn't the same. So even from just using terms like meeting maker, and this was 5 years ago when we first started the relationship, we just had to learn to speak each other's language. And now that we do, we're very successful. And when we don't understand the language, we ask each other. So that open communication. Bring the check writers to the table early. So it is important that your HR team, a lot of times we can go out and we get great ideas, but we have to come back and present them to our C-suite so that we can get a check written to support it. And early involvement of the check writer is extremely important. And then you want to be sure that you're communicating back with the check writers the success, so they know what their return on their investment is. Don't be easy on the students. I was guilty. We asked for Colander Manufacturing to do some work for us, and they brought back their presentation, and me being the softie, I was like, oh, that's awesome. This is great. One of our VPs said, no, go back to the table and do it again. So after the students left, I'm like, I cannot believe you just did that to those students. They worked so hard on that. We could have helped them fix it. And he said, no, Susan, they need to understand what return on investment means and what we're looking for as a company to make that successful. Those students came back and they blew us out of the water. So I had reluctantly had to admit that I was wrong. So yes, hold them accountable. Never say can't from either side. That is one of the luxuries of we've had working with Perry Central, and we have worked with other high schools in the area, but they say there's red tape or we can't do this because of scheduling. The innovative approach that Perry Central has had has helped us be able to make their programs work in our business world. So we're very much appreciative of that. Be sure to don't take it easy on them, and don't underestimate them. That is another piece that we've learned over time is these students are amazing, and their insight on how to solve problems is a different approach than what we've had, because that's the way we've always done it. So getting that young mind thought process involved early is extremely beneficial from that. One of the other things that has come is I have learned how to communicate with that next generation. And that's the generation that's going to be the leaders in our workforce in a very short period of time. They communicate differently than what we have been taught and what we do. So that was a good thing. So not only communicate with your educational professionals, but learn how to communicate with that age group. So the advice I give you is just don't say no. Nothing's impossible. And communicate often and learn the language, and remember to involve the people in your business that can write the checks. I was pledged, Perry Central asked me to go on some site tours 5 years ago to some schools, And on the way home, I was texting the owner of our company going, we are going to do this. And so Jody had a meeting that had several people from the community, Wapaka, Jasper Engines, and Ivy Tech. And when Wapaka said, we can do this, my company was texting me going, we can do it better. So that competition worked out real well for us also. So we're just excited to be part of it. And if anybody has any questions or wants help on how our approach, I am more than willing to sit down and hear what you have to say, and just don't give up on it. Sometimes it doesn't work. We've had to step back and punt more than once. But at the end of it, when you see a child that maybe would not have done anything after school, that wasn't your 4.0, didn't have that internal motivation to be great, or maybe even nobody at home to help them grow. And you see that child then step up on the stage in the state of Indiana at the Chamber of Commerce and accept a scholarship for the work they did in commodore manufacturing, presented to the governor. And prior to commodore manufacturing, that child had no idea what they were going to do with the rest of their life. Jody and I got to sit at that table with the mother when that child received that award from the state of Indiana Chamber of Commerce, and that mother had tears. Jody and I cried right along with her. That was the most amazing thing. So look for the wins. They're little, they're big, but whatever it is, don't give up, and involve all children of all abilities and skill sets and whatever their future may be. It's amazing what these young children can do if the adults in the world get out of the way and just let them go. So thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Susan and Sam, for your great insight as business leaders working with CTE. I think it's a really important component of CTE programs. So it's really great to hear your insights.